For 6,000 years, the stars had known only peace. Beneath the serene orb of Io, Ambassador Lira Voss watched ice particles shimmer like diamonds across the void. A diplomat by training, she had inherited the legacy of generations who had never known war. Peace was not just a condition of life. It was its foundation. She pressed her hand against the viewport glass of the Council cruiser Solstice, wondering why the stars felt colder today. The distress signal had come without warning, a faint, archaic transmission on a frequency unused since the age of conflict. A listening post near the galactic verge had sent one last message before falling silent. An indecipherable screech and coordinates surrounded by a repeating code, Omega. That single word had shaken the Council. Omega was not supposed to exist. Lyra's assignment was simple in theory. Conduct a quiet investigation, report anomalies, and return before rumors spread. But something about the silence beyond the rim gnawed at her. Her shuttle pilot, Commander Elian Drax, stood silently at her side, the glow of the console casting hard shadows across his scarred face. Unlike Lira, he was born in the outer systems, where caution still lingered in the bloodline. "This isn't just a comms error," he said, his voice rough like ground stone. "You feel it too." She nodded. Too many variables. And that code, it was supposed to be buried centuries ago. Drax tilted his head. And yet it wasn't. Someone or something wanted her again. Their descent toward Europa was smooth. The moon's surface remained untouched, preserved as a historical vault under the Council's peace accords. Deep beneath its frozen crust lay one of humanity's greatest secrets, one so forbidden that even its existence was relegated to myth. Lyra's clearance, inherited through a bloodline bound to the original treaty, granted her access to things most considered legend. As the ice station came into view, sleek, angular, and abandoned, her breath caught. She had seen pictures of it in archives, grainy and filtered through time, but the real thing seemed impossibly alien. Inside, the facility groaned as power returned, reluctant after centuries of silence. Lights flickered on one by one. Dust hung in the air like forgotten memories. Lyra walked slowly, the echo of her boots reverberating like whispers in a tomb. At the heart of the facility stood a sealed door, marked only with a single glyph, a vertical eye over cross blades. Drax held back. "If what they say is true, we shouldn't be here. We already are." She pressed her hand to the console, and the biometric scanner chirped with reluctant recognition. The door opened, not with a mechanical hiss of current tech, but with the deep, resonant sigh of something ancient waking from sleep. The chamber was a cathedral of war. Vast, circular, lined with inert machines that looked more like monuments than weapons. In the center floated a sphere of silver and black, humming softly. It pulsed at her presence, reading her, adjusting. A voice echoed through the chamber, not from a speaker, from everywhere. User recognized. Protocol Omega initiated. Designate, VELOS. Drax raised his weapon instinctively, though it was little more than ceremonial. Military arms were forbidden for active deployment under the Accord. The air thickened with tension as the sphere began to unfold, panels blooming like metal petals. Lyra took a step forward. "VELOS, you were the fail-safe." A pause, almost contemplative. "Fail-safe. Weapon. Guardian." The words change. The function does not. "What is your function now?" she asked. "To wait until summoned by threat." "There is a threat," Drax said grimly. "But we don't know what it is. We don't know who." The voice became quieter, closer. "Then learn. I will observe." She turned to Drax. "We need to get this back to the Council." "Are you kidding? We just activated the most dangerous thing ever built." "Exactly," she replied. "And it woke up for a reason." Their shuttle lifted off hours later, carrying more than data. VELOS, still dormant, had initiated partial synchronization with the station's local net. On their way out, Lyra caught something in the feed, an intercepted signal. Not from Earth, not even human. It repeated, rhythmic and simple. "We are the return. The peace is over." By the time the stars of the inner systems came back into view, she knew the truth. History had lied. The age of peace hadn't erased war. It had only buried it. And now, something was digging it back up. The stars burned quieter now, as if they too anticipated what was coming. In the high-orbit command deck of the Terran Defense Relay above Mars, Admiral Kiros stood motionless, eyes fixed on the holographic projection of the Verge. Pinpricks of red flickered across the outer systems, outposts going dark, one by one. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just silence. He had never seen anything like it in his 40 years of service. "What do you make of it?" asked Director Nail, a civilian liaison from the Peace Council, adjusting the collar of his pristine robe with visible discomfort. Kiros didn't turn. Predatory precision. Whoever's doing this has studied us. They're dismantling our edges before we can react. Nail frowned. This could be natural phenomena, gravity storms, solar anomalies. They're surgical, power grids, comm hubs, food synthesis plants. Every site lost is a critical infrastructure point. That's not nature. Nail swallowed hard and lowered his voice. "And you think it's them?" Kiros looked at him now. "I don't think anything. I observe, but I've never seen an alien species this quiet or this deliberate." The words felt taboo. For millennia, them had been a placeholder for the unknowable. The Accord had made first contact a myth, a footnote. In practice, humanity had remained alone. Until now, far beyond the Council's gilded chambers, Lira Voss stepped to the archway of the Grand Convocation on Terra Prime, the holography dome alive with debate. The Council was panicking, veiled by layers of ceremony. In her hand was a recording. VELOS activation, the intercepted signal, and the sequence of outpost failures. She had crossed 5 systems to bring it here, only to be met with skepticism. The high speaker raised a hand, silencing the din. "You present what?" An ancient war engine speaking riddles, and a string of disappearances without proof of aggression. Lyra's voice was steady. "Not riddles. Protocol. VELOS was built for an existential threat, and it woke up without being summoned." "Exactly," the speaker snapped. "An autonomous activation. That alone is ground for concern. What happens when it chooses to act without human approval?" "It hasn't acted," she said. "It's waiting, observing." A long silence followed, then a thin, calm voice from the shadows. "And learning." Admiral Kiros stepped forward, flanked by 2 aides in dark tactical coats. His eyes locked onto Lyra's. War met diplomacy in that glance, but it wasn't hostility. It was recognition. "This isn't a diplomatic puzzle," he said. "This is a war already begun, and we've been caught asleep." The chamber erupted, voices shouting across tiers of marble. Kiros remained still, hands behind his back. "They're not responding to hails," he continued. "They don't claim territory. They don't broadcast demands. They erase us, quietly, without a name, which means we give them one." Lyra stepped closer to him, her voice quiet but firm. "And what happens when we give them a name? When we respond with weapons we haven't used in 6,000 years? Kiros didn't blink. "We survive." Back aboard the cruiser Solstice, VELOS core was being transferred into an encrypted AI matrix, isolated from the main net. It didn't resist. It watched. It listened. It learned. Lyra stood before a containment chamber, reading the scrolls of code flickering across the glass. She was alone. Or, more accurately, not with any human. "You're quiet," she said softly. "Processing." She exhaled. "We're not ready for you." "I was not made for readiness. I was made for necessity." Lyra hesitated. "If I asked you to stop, could you?" The silence that followed felt heavier than any answer. Then, gently, "Could, would, should. They're not the same." Back on the Martian relay, Kiros deployed a probe fleet toward the edge, unarmed, fast, and silent. Within hours, one vanished. The second returned crippled, its data half erased. But what remained was unmistakable. A ship, massive, angular, not alien, human in structure but older, scarred, weaponized, a design not seen since before the peace. The lost colonies, those exiled during the unification wars, had vanished without trace, and now it seemed they had returned. Kiros stared at the image, jaw clenched. They kept evolving, he murmured, while we stood still. His comlink buzzed. Sir, we've just received a transmission. From who? Unknown. It matches the Verge signal. He nodded. Patch it through. A voice, metallic, calm, and unmistakably human, filled the bridge. We are the forgotten. We are the forge. The accord was a lie. The strong were cast out to protect the fragile. Now we reclaim what was always ours. Then silence. Lira heard it too, relayed to the council's secure channel. Around her, silence felt like a physical force. She looked to Kiros' image on the display. He didn't speak, but his eyes said everything. War had returned, and this time it spoke with the voice of humanity itself.